Yep. Yep, it's come up, start. Oh, Neil's joined us as well. Hello, Neil.
Hi, Neil.
Right.
Right.
Over to you, Bulent.
Okay. Right. Can everyone see the front cover?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I've done this book. The way I've designed it actually is I've used some quotes from some famous photographers, and I've illustrated each quote with half a dozen of my own photos. The opening quote, if you like, for the whole book is the studio by Robert Dosny. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation of the French name, but it's a French photographer. The studio photographer does hothouse work. The street photographer, by contrast, is a thug, a poacher. Now, I took this in the red light district in Amsterdam. The reason I chose this for the whole book is because really he is right what he's saying, that there is, a street photographer there's a bit of a thugger and a bit of a poacher in the art of it. I'm more of a poacher. The first quote is by the American photographer W. Eugene Smith. Available light is any damn light that is available.
Some of my favourites.
I took this in near Piccadilly, actually. So 6 photographs to sort of illustrate this concept of available light.
That's a lovely shot.
Beautiful shot.
Yeah.
So if there are any questions during the presentation, please.
Well, that one before, that one that looks almost like a composite, but I'm assuming it's not.
No.
Yeah, it's a science museum.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? All right.
Yeah.
Showing my ignorance.
You need to get out more, Paul.
Yeah.
I do.
You're not allowed.
Slow, Bulent. I don't know how many you've got, but you can slow down slightly.
Well,
you've got a lot.
I was allowing 5 seconds.
No. Allow 10.
This was with a camera phone. Maybe you can tell with some of them.
Are we likely to have seen some of these before, Bulent, on either your Flickr page or somewhere else?
Yes, they're there on Instagram. Most of them. I like photographs that leave something to the imagination. That's by the English photographer Fay Weldon. That's a difficult one, really, about what she's saying there. This was taken in Bangkok.
I like that.
Yeah. Wasn't Easter time, was it?
No, it wasn't actually. And I had no idea what that was about, to be honest.
James Stewart's around the corner somewhere.
This was in Harrods. This was in Ramsgate, and I think this building is now being demolished, actually, or has been.
I wonder what happened to the statues.
Yeah, I know.
So just because somewhere is a public place, so like the one where you took in Harrods, so the public are allowed in there, that wouldn't actually be classed as a public place, would it?
Well, it is a public place.
It's private ownership, private land.
It's a privately owned building, isn't it?
I mean, I have never had an experience yet. Well, I mean, I have taken pictures in shops. On the whole, shops really don't mind photographing, what's happening there, if you like. So personally, I've never had an experience where somebody said to me, "You can't take pictures here." This the British Museum, just in the entrance there.
Mm.
The only place, Bulent, I found that they can say that, I've had it several times,
Mm.
is in shopping centres.
Yes, well,
Bill.
that's true. Yes, shopping
They are very, very tricky about that in shopping centres.
Mm.
This was at Sotheby's. If you can smell the street by looking at the photo, it's a street photograph. That's by the American photographer Bruce Gilden.
Mm.
Yeah.
I was going to say that. Look, yeah, I knew that was Oxford Street even before I looked. Yeah.
Istanbul.
Mm.
I love,
Oh, I know that feeling.
Did you,
I love the teddy bear. I think that's great.
did you position Paddington there?
Cool, you don't get many of them to the pound.
Only you're allowed to say that, Heather.
I mean, looking at this, you might think this is like southern France or Spain or something. It was actually South Bank, just outside the restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually stayed in that hotel, funnily enough, Bulent, the bar in the Bear in Bath.
Mm. Did you, Bulent, did you
Yeah.
wait for that gentleman to
Well,
cross?
it was just, this was with a camera again, actually. It was just pure chance because actually the funny thing is that day I was going to, the Royal Photographic Society is just around the corner from there.
Oh, is
I was
it?
going there for an RPS thing. And it was just a moment's thing. I just saw this man coming across.
Mm.
Sometimes you just see something, you just wait for something to happen in front of it. I mean, I had taken pictures in front of this thing before, but it's just none of them really worked except this man's head, the way it's down and the way he was walking. It's just,
And
good.
and just going back, if you can, on that one, bottom right hand corner of that panel, it almost looks like a white silhouette of the bloke, doesn't it?
Yes, yes.
Can you see that? That's
Yeah.
very weird. Yeah. Mm.
One of the risks of appearing in public is the likelihood of being photographed. That's by Diane Arbus. Maybe some of you know about Diane Arbus's work. The funny thing about this photo, actually, when I was going through this the other day, with all the, panic buying of toilet rolls we've been experiencing recently, this was in 2000, this was in Shepherd's Bush Market. But I mean, I thought it was funny at the time, just a trolley full of toilet roll. This lady, she didn't think it was funny.
Forward thinking.
Yeah.
Homeless people. There are ethical questions some people feel about it. Personally, my view on it is, I photograph. There is a documentary element to some of my photography, definitely. And I'm sort of taking pictures, a record of, in some shape or form, of life in London, really. And I can't really avoid homeless people in there. I did ask her at this particular instance. I said to her, I like the poster behind you, and can I take a picture of you? But sometimes I don't ask. This is, these two men were walking up. There's some stairs actually leading up to that door. And I was just going to follow them in there. I didn't know where they were going. I thought maybe a synagogue or something. And as they opened the door, went in there, and then turned around to shut the door, and they saw me with the camera in my hand, and that was the picture, really. Now this man, Paul, you were asking me about people not like being photographed. Now this is the only time I was actually given a chase by someone. And
Chased.
that
Hope you didn't catch her.
I took this picture, and then he just started coming after me, swinging his stick in the air, you know. So I had to run away. But I mean, really, this is the only time that I have, you know,
Yeah.
experienced that.
Huh.
This was in Stamford Hill, in one of the supermarkets there. But again, you see, you take a picture like that, they saw me that I'd taken a picture. It is a very instant thing. If people think that you're okay, it's a vibe thing. I always feel it's a vibe thing. If people think your vibe is okay, and how can your vibe be okay because you're an okay guy, you know? So there is that.
So if you've got a face full of tattoos, then it wouldn't work.
Well, you know, it's really, you emit some vibe saying, I'm not dangerous, you know, don't worry. Something like that, you know, without words. You know, it's okay, you know.
Yeah.
This is quite a recent picture, actually, last year.
Yeah. Did you buy him the sandwich or have that?
That's brilliantly timed.
Great image. Did you wait for that, Bulent? Did you wait for that
Yes.
to pass? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I used to do quite a bit of, you know, with backdrops if you have something interesting, like this one, for example. Now, this quote from Ouija, I don't know if you guys, if you know about this American photographer Ouija. He says, to me, pictures are like blintzes. I don't know what blintzes are. It must be something. You got to get them while they're hot. Ouija was a photographer in the 50s in New York. He was quite famous for shooting crime scenes, you know. So the thing about this is, I mean, I thought this was a wonderful backdrop of some sort, whatever it was. They're doing some sort of a building work behind it in Bond Street. But for me, what makes this work is really both these guys looking at the camera. If he was just looking ahead, I don't think it would have worked as much.
Yes.
Somehow he sort of brings them alive somehow.
Yeah.
Now this, I don't know if they actually knew whether they knew that they were both wearing full-length stripy dresses. One is horizontal stripes and it's vertical. This one was quite unusual because I have no idea who or what this guy was or what he was doing. He was walking. He didn't you couldn't see his face, you couldn't see his body. He had a very nice pair of shoes on, actually, I have to say.
He just done a bank robbery in the TSB.
It was amazing, and in a very English sort of way. Nobody paid any attention to him. It was really quite funny.
Yeah.
This was taken in Soho, outside. This was outside a sex shop, actually. The poster, the left, the one on the couple on the left is of course a poster. So I was just waiting. There was quite a narrow passageway. This, and it was like a gift, really, for this man to turn up and just this eye contact between him and her.
Man in a Mac.
This is the other one. I mean, it wasn't taken at the same time. The previous one was in 2013. This one was 2017. Again in Soho, outside an adult video shop. This man comes out with probably a bag full of videos. I don't know, but then again, this sort of eye contact with the man next door, with his mouth open, really. This one,
Are you shooting? Are you bringing the camera to your eye, or
well, this one actually was a camera phone.
Okay, but when you're using the cue, are you bringing it to your, or are you actually shooting from your chest, blind?
Well, no, never. Always eye level, always eye level.
Right.
Actually, this one again.
Right,
This background
continuation of the
I
story.
thought was really good, but I was there for quite a while and took a lot of pictures. None of them I knew. None of them was any good. So I went off, wandered around quite a bit. And I thought I have to come back. Something has to happen. And I came back here. And believe it or not, this guy turns up. I mean, really, if he had, I mean, it's perfect because if he had his hands not in his pocket, it wouldn't have been as good. For some reason, really, I thought about this guy. But if his hood was not on his head, or if he was not looking down, if he was looking ahead, it's just sometimes
Just works.
Things just happen, you know. It's like it's just a really curious thing. You see, the thing is, I remember very clearly when I was taking this picture. This was in Portobello Road, Portobello Market. I thought, well, I didn't want him to see me taking a picture because I didn't know how he would react to it. Because, of course, he doesn't know that there's a connection. He doesn't know why I want to take his picture, you know. This is the thing, most of the time people don't know why you want to take their picture. This one, I really believe there are things nobody would see if I didn't photograph them, again by Diane Arbus. I mean, it was really true for her because she did photograph some really extraordinary people. It meant, you know, I mean, you really have to look it up, Google Diane Arbus if you haven't. Of course, I'm not a match for her, but I thought it was a good quote because really nobody would have seen this. This was outside a Bentley, a huge Bentley parked outside of a very expensive antique shop in Mayfair. And then I just suddenly I thought, God, this Buddha is sitting inside this Bentley, you know, meditating inside this Bentley. Reflections are always very interesting, actually. This was the Tate Modern coffee shop. I mean, I was just having coffee with a friend, and I just saw this thing, and I think I might probably waited a little bit for this two men to be crossing each other in the middle. This again. I mean, there was some building work going on there, and I was waiting there because there were people coming in and out, but it wasn't working, you know, it wasn't working as an image. And then suddenly this chap just pushed that open, and just for a second he was shouting at somebody, and that was it, you know. So you do have to hang around sometimes, although I'm not that patient, but.
Great.
Well,
And did he get the pigeon?
Is he naked?
Yes.
I think that was his hand.
Well, whatever.
Again, you see, really, I was interested in this poster in this van of Bob Marley. And again, it was just a piece of luck for this man to come there and stop there and just to be looking around. They're sort of both looking in opposite directions in a way. In photography, there is a reality so subtle that it becomes more real than reality. That's why Albert Stiglitz and early American photography. There's a lot happening in this picture, actually, if you look at it.
I like the legs at the back.
Yes.
You know, I don't know how much of it I saw. I think I was focused on, I noticed the man in the center. he was completely standing still, and the Muslim woman on her phone. But then there's what's happening behind there, particularly with those two legs behind the tree.
I like the way it's cropped as well, so it's hanging lives instead of changing lives.
But this is the thing about street photography. You know, everybody will say that, you know, you're taking pictures, and there's a lot that you don't see when you take it.
Yeah.
Which is really quite exciting part of it. I like doing nighttime photography, but I don't go out enough at night.
Easy.
Different angle.
Coronavirus.
Yeah.
This is a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
A portrait is not a likeness. All photographs are accurate. None of them is the truth. This is by the famous portrait and fashion photographer Richard Avedon. Now, this couple were actually, I think they were a homeless couple, and they were to the side of this smile graffiti and having a bit of a drink. And I asked them if they would pose for me in front of the, they gave me a big smile for it. This one, Stamford Hill, I like photographing. I mean, I hadn't come across this particular sect, really, the Hasidic sect. I mean, I went to Israel afterwards. I took some pictures there, but they are so isolated from, you know, us, really, from the rest of society, that you approach them, they can't believe that somebody's approached them even to talk to them, and then to say, I want to take your picture, is like, what? They can't quite comprehend anything about it. So that's why I'm really pleased with this photo, because it was a real number to get them to, and then to find the background for them to come and stand in front of, because they feel really embarrassed. You know, the people might see them, you know, and what are they doing? And they're not sure who you are. And so anyway, I'm very pleased with that, because their outfit is just wonderful, you know, both of them. This is the flip side of the same coin, actually. This was in Shepherd's Bush Market. And I talked to this girl, and I just managed to ask her something. And then when I realized that she was actually going to talk to me, I did start talking to her then, and then eventually I had to sort of get her to pose for me with her boys. Again, she was extremely reluctant, but so this is like some of the photographs that, you know, you just stop someone and say, can I take a picture of you like this? It's not me. This chap, I saw at Waitrose and waited for him when he came out. Asked him if I could take a picture of him. So you have to be very quick when you do that with people, because they don't want to hang around, and you have to find a sort of a suitable plain background very quickly. So, you know, it's all happens very, very fast. This was a camera phone. It was just outside the Royal Opera House. He was just about to go in. Photography is not about the thing photographed. It is about how that thing looks photographed. That's by another American photographer, Gary Winogrand. Now, I find this, always thought this was quite an interesting quote on photography. The fact that it is not about the thing photographed, but about how that looks when it's photographed. I think that's why it is also said that you can just photograph anything, really. You can I used to think about this. You can photograph anything. What does that mean? You can photograph anything. But then how does it look when you do? This was quite an early attempt by me, actually, to copy Robert Mapplethorpe. I don't know if you've seen his work, but he did exactly this, black grapes on a black background. I mean, these are obviously just an aberration, just a few pictures that are not street. I mean, this was just a beach shot.
Very good.
Photography is pretty simple stuff. You just react to what you see and take many, many pictures. Elliot Erwitt. Elliot Erwitt is a very famous street photographer, American. Very old school. Again, if you have any questions, please just...
You just go back one, Bulent. That is a brilliant shot. Beautiful shot. Yeah, thank you. Superb.
It's just the posters, the man in the posters and her looking in the same direction as... This was in Bangkok. I don't know if you have ever come across this gentleman in Piccadilly area. Actually, he had been around there. When was that taken? 2015. Those years, he was really around there, dressed just like that. It's quite a character. But it was interesting to just get him just outside BAFTA, as if he had anything to do with it. You don't have to enhance reality. There is nothing stranger than truth. That's Anna Leibovitch.
Oh, very good.
Very good.
And just shot from the car, actually, the phone camera.
You know?
Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Taking pictures is like tiptoeing into the kitchen at night and stealing Oreo cookies. Now, this picture, really, if I didn't tell you something about it, this was in a sort of quiet working class pub near where I live. And a friend of mine plays in a jazz band there. He asked me to come around one night, take some pictures of the band. And the thing about the pub was that they had people turning up to sing, you know, just locals, ordinary people just coming up to sing with the band. It was really quite interesting. And this man, some were really pretty poor, actually. I have to say they were pretty poor. One or two were sort of half good. But it was just a bit of fun, really, for most people, although the jazz band was good. but this in the back, in the center there, I think he saw himself as like Frank Sinatra or something like that. He was quite serious about it. I didn't realize really that they didn't want to be photographed, because you can see on the top left-hand corner of the heart, inside the heart, I think there's a no camera sign. Now, I didn't realize that. After I took a couple of pictures, I did realize from the reaction. But the thing about the red light district for me was, I mean, in some ways I knew what to expect. On the other hand, I was really quite taken aback by the nature of the shopping area, if you like. So it is sort of, it's very difficult not to photograph something like that, I find personally, because I think it to me is almost surreal, really. This one, to do with cropping, really. I don't know if you can tell, but the girl in the background and the boy in the foreground look like they're looking at the same thing. But the girl in the background is actually an advertisement that was there. So I sort of just cropped a bit out from her, the top above her head. So cropping sometimes, can be quite effective. I mean,
Bulent, I take it you're not doing much post-production on these images.
No, well, just conversion, really. Just conversion to black and white and playing with, a little bit with that. And a lot of my photos that you see here, actually, this was quite a foggy day, a very heavy fog in Richmond. I used to crop a lot. I used to do cropping quite a bit. Photos like this one as well. But these days, I don't do much cropping. Now, this is an interesting quote. The real skill of photography is organized visual lying. Just died recently.
Yes. Photographer.
It is, isn't it? I mean, that's what we decide to leave in the picture, what we decide to keep out.
You're coming and going a little bit to me.
Am I?
Your voice.
Yes.
Paul, I think someone's moving around near their mic. Somebody's not on mute, I'm assuming.
This is in South Bank. Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is South Bank. This actually particular spot, I've seen other photographers being attracted to this.
I've got one of those.
Yes, I think a lot of people have. I was quite pleased with, actually, what I was pleased with this was the lady in the middle, particularly with her bag. And anyway, these are little things, you look at them afterwards and you think, oh, yeah, I like this. I mean, this was taken from Centre Pompidou in Paris. One of the things about street photography is the judges at clubs. Really, I don't know if there are any judges here tonight, but they're not really very familiar with street photography, hardly any of them actually. I remember when I put this up in a competition, the judge said, oh, well, it would have been better if you just taken that one out on the top left-hand corner. Because they're always looking to say something about the photo, but it's not like nature photography, it's not like wildlife, it's not like landscape. What are you going to say? You're going to say something. Well, usually it's what you should take out. You should have taken this, you should have cropped.
They're very, very easily distracted, judges.
Sorry?
Judges are very easily distracted.
Yes, yes. But unfortunately, you see, what happens is they're encouraging then people to take almost perfect pictures, which really is not, at the end of the day, it can be too perfect sometimes,
Mm.
you know.
Yes, you're touching on a huge subject there, Bulent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult once you get stuck in a particular thing. It's very difficult to see things differently, you know.
Mm.
This was camera. This was with an iPhone as well, actually.
That's an excellent picture, Bulent.
Every photo is the first frame of a movie by the German filmmaker, actually, Wim Wenders. I like that quote. It's an interesting quote.
Mm.
I mean, I was waiting there. This is the back of a restaurant, and I was waiting there because I like the lighting on the side of the building, and it was just a bit of luck for him to come out at that point and then turn around to look at me, which meant they put some light on half of his face.
Bulent, do you tend to do spurts?
Sorry?
Do you tend to do spurts, or do you do one frame at a time?
No, I do spurts, yeah.
Yeah.
This, yeah. This was an extremely low light with a camera.
Mm.
Photography for me is catching a moment which is passing and which is true.
Love the picture.
Takes you a minute to work out what's going on there.
Yeah, it does, Chris. Brilliant.
This was Richmond Park, actually, Queen's Jubilee 2012. She'd come there. There was a whole setup in the middle of the park, the ballet school, to do a performance. And of course, in a very British way, there was a downpour. As soon as the performance finished, there was this huge downpour of rain. This I quite like. What I like about it is this man with a bow tie, and I mean, this was like region.
Leicester Square.
Leicester Square, it says it there. Leicester Square, and really, it was in the afternoon, and I mean, where he just turned up there, it was just, you know, and his expression on his face is lovely.
Yeah.
I assume that dog's not real. That's not going to suddenly spring to life, is it?
No.
Yeah.
This is Naples. Well, one thing about, well, a lot of these photos in this book are from London, and a couple of people whose opinions I respect have said, Bulent, your London photos are better than your travel ones. So I can see the thing in it, you know, because when I travel, if I go somewhere for 3 or 4 days, like Rome, you know, I was just running around. I was there for 3 days, and I feel you just don't get the
Vibe.
Yes, this was in Bangkok. Everything is a subject. This is another quote that I like. Everything is a subject. It all is about the same thing, isn't it? You can photograph anything. Everything's a subject. It's how it looks. That's what makes it. This was in Paris, near Gare du Nord. There's this sort of shopping area, quite sort of, you know, not the high end, you know, not haute couture or anything like that. But I just like the way their displays are all so funny, because they obviously so much they don't care about how things look the way they display them, you know. So there's this man with a hole in his head. This was just up the road, you know, just very near where I live. It's to me, it's like conceptual art, you know. I mean, you could see something like this in Tate Modern, could you really?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the kind of thing they do, you know.
Tracy Emin or somebody like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
This was in an antique shop in Paris. I just thought it was really quite surreal. Again, it's very French, you know. It's beautifully done on set. Reflections. I mean, they you know, they are great, and also it's like you can really take your time. You're not photographing people, and reflections are everywhere. They really are.
Mm.
This was a reflection of the houses and the street and the clouds from a Halloween display in a party shop. This is one of my sort of 2011. I liked this at the time because to me it looked like Jesus was hoping to, you know, just sort of staring out the window, really. A photograph should be more interesting or more beautiful than what was photographed. Now that's a very difficult one. It really is. A photograph should be more interesting or more beautiful than what was photographed. I mean, that really is quite a challenge when you think about it.
Yeah.
This was just a mannequin, but
But that's that whole modern thing about how the manipulation of what you've got with your image is now almost more important than the actual image.
Mm. Yes.
again, reflection here, of course. This is all reflection. I don't know if you know Chiswick House. I was on the outside. This sculpture is on the inside of the building. I'm looking through a window. This is looking through to the back of the building, into the garden. And this man is walking the door to my left. So it's just all done. Nothing has been played with here. It's just simply a reflection, really, of three elements. This is another one. This is not a reflection. This was just an advertisement behind her. To me, it looked like she's sort of, that's like a messenger flying off.
Mm.
That's clever.
Mm.
Bulent, when you're moving on the street looking for photos, what sort of settings are you using on the queue?
I shoot. I make sure I'm shooting at about 1,000th of a second.
Right.
And I usually shoot at 800 ISO.
Right.
And try minimum 5.6, 5.6 or f8, depending on how you set the camera up. If you can do zonal focusing, or do you do zonal focusing?
No.
I tell you what, if you don't know about zonal focusing, Google it. I can't explain it. It's a little bit difficult to explain, actually. But if your camera can do it, Q can do it. Of course, you can do it on the Q. But I always find it better to set the ISO, to set the shutter speed.
Thank you.
F8 or something like that. This one, I can't remember now. It was in a gallery. It was a photograph by quite well-known photographer that I knew quite well, but I can't remember who it was. These light stripes on his jacket and everything was actually the photograph, but not this huge. His face, that is the actual spot hitting the photograph, the glass. So that's all it is really. The spot obliterating his face. Photography is a major force in explaining man to man. Another really quite old, famous icon.
Mm.
I mean, this was really quite interesting because I was there for quite a long time. This chap was just sleeping there. It was unbelievable. He could have been sleeping in, on a very comfortable bed or something. You wouldn't believe how comfortable he was. And life just happened around him at this very, very busy spot.
Mm.
It's quite surreal. There's just two ladies waiting for the summer to come, really. Taken in May. Portobello Market is alive. I like the whole environment there. I mean, I really like markets, actually. There are a lot of people. This was in a church in Naples. Again, it's, it's that I don't see in this country, so it was interesting for me. How can you be a street photographer, taking photographs as a street photographer and not take a picture of yeah, this coffee there. He was reading the Evening Standard. A good snapshot keeps a moment from running away. This was taken in Phuket in Thailand. Maybe some of you might have been there. It is a sort of, this particular place where we went one night is a sort of hot spot where the Brits go to, to enjoy things. This is just a simple poster actually at my train station one day. And I mean, the thing about this is there's not much space in terms of taking pictures of somebody in front of you without that person noticing. It's not, the platform's not that big, but somehow it happened with this lady just in the right space actually between those horses, because there was where she is. So, it's like, God.
Can I ask, Bulent, the format that you shoot in do you shoot in RAW?
Yes. Yeah.
So then you convert it
Yes.
to black and white.
Yeah. I mean, I use Silver FX.
Right. Yeah. The Nick one. Yeah.
Yes.
Software.
I use Silver FX.
Mm.
Again, if you are shooting in black and white, in a way, I mean, if you are going to convert to black and white, if you want to do black and white stuff, in a way, it's kind of see things in black and white.
Mm.
So you are drawn to things that will suit black and white, I mean, this was again another piece of luck, really. I just saw this thing. I think it was in Shoreditch. And there was a lot of it actually along the road. It was just such a graphic image. And then I was waiting for something. You're always waiting for something to happen. And then this chap comes up wearing exactly that jumper with that thing on. You know, it was like, what? I wasn't expecting that. You know, really didn't expect that. I photographed to see what something will look like photographed. It's the same thing, isn't it? It's almost like the same quotes in so many different ways. I mean, I didn't know what these things were in Brick Lane. They were just hanging there. And I took a picture of this and I put it on Flickr, and one photographer responded to me. Actually, he comes to our club sometimes to give talks. He's a street photographer. He says, "Oh, I saw that." But yours is better, which was quite nice to hear.
Bulent, can we sort of come to an end in the next 5 minutes? Is that possible?
Whenever you like.
Yeah, next 5 minutes would be great, mate. Thank you. That is brilliant.
It's fun, yeah.
So thank you very much.
Wow, that was a quick 5 minutes.
You want a few more?
Yeah, you got a few more?
Okay.
Yeah.
So good. They're so good. Huh.
That's
Brilliant.
Stop.
Yeah, that's fine. That's just absolutely wonderful. Are you staying with us, Bulent, for Colin's presentation?
Yes, I will.
Because Paul's going to make a vote of thanks after Colin's finished. So that was absolutely wonderful, Bulent. Really wonderful.
Thank you.
Superb.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Bulent, can I just ask one quick question? What lens do you use? What focal length?
It's 28. It's 28 mil actually. 1.7.
For all your street stuff?
Yeah. I used to use 50 mil. I started up with 50 mil with a Canon, and then I changed to when Canon got a 40 mil pancake lens. I started using that, and then now I use the 28 mil. So it's a prime lens is the best really, because it's lighter, smaller, it's good quality. But I do know of friends who will use, telephoto lens, smallish telephoto lenses, but it's yeah.
And do you use do you use a fixed focus? Like you set your focus up to say 4 foot and then leave it at that and just
that is zonal focusing actually. So you can do that. You can set it from like 1 meter to infinity. That's what zonal focusing does. So then you have to set up the aperture and then the shutter speed. And so zonal focusing, in fact, somebody at our club the other week was talking about how she first time started doing zonal focusing and how everything was in focus. Now, in street photography, you want everything in focus, despite the fact that sometimes judges say, oh, well, you want to isolate. In fact, in street photography, it's the opposite. You don't want to isolate anything. You want the whole picture, so you want everything in focus and everything sharp. So it's high ISO if need be, and it's f8 or f11 if you can.
And speed is also very relevant, isn't it?
Speed
Obviously.
is very important because otherwise you obviously get blurred images. So
Yeah.
1/1000th of a second is you can get away with 800. It just depends, but to be on the safe side, 1,000th of a second really.
To be more obscure, Bullen, I've done a lot of street photography shooting from the chest.
Yes.
And the problem is then the keepers are so few. I mean, you're getting a ratio of like 1 to 20 or something, but you're a slightly more covert and people can't see that you're actually taking their photo.
Yes, but the thing is, if you decide to, if you start actually holding the camera up, if you start using the camera properly by holding it up, I mean, you do get used to it. You do get used to it. You realize that bit by bit, actually, you are quick. Most of the time, people don't notice that you've taken a picture. Most of the time, people don't. And also, maybe you don't need to take pictures where you're getting really close to people. Maybe you're going to take, wide-angle shots of street shots, which are really quite interesting.
Yes.
You don't really have to get very close. And also, with the advantage of a full frame is you can crop it.
Yes.
You don't have to get very close.
Yeah, especially with that 28mm 1.7.
Yes.
So good. Yeah.
Can I just ask, Bulent, how long have you been doing street photography, please?
Really, about 15 years. But I've taken a lot more in the last 10 years. I mean, I was just going through some of this stuff recently, and I thought, gosh, some years I've really taken a lot of pictures. It's just the thing with street photography is like you've got to drive yourself out the house, That's the thing. You can't do street photography inside your living room.
No.
So you got to say, I've got to go out. Good weather, bad weather,
Yes.
Go out. That's the thing.
And were you interested in photography before then?
Yes. I've always been interested in photography and cinema, actually. So I'm a big cinema fan.
Right.
So it's sort of, it's all those influences, really.
Right. Thank you. Yeah.
I also love
Yes, thanks very much for that. That was great.
Yes, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So, should we have a coffee break just for 5 minutes or so and then start with Colin?
Do we have to have coffee?
Yes.
Well, you can have a beer.